Yo. Welcome back to Son of a Preacher Man. As always, I'm your host. Soapman is in the house. I've made over 100 videos about the Bible, mostly Old Testament stuff. A few episodes ago, I went all the way back to the very beginning of the Bible, to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. I made an entire episode about the first 3 words of the Bible, in the beginning. I told you in my episode titled In the Beginning that if you didn't understand what happened in the beginning, you were going to run into a lot of trouble comprehending what happened subsequent to that. The Bible says that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And there were 3 things already in existence in the beginning. There was darkness, there was the face of the deep, and there was the face of the waters. I told you that what the Bible was saying happened in the beginning was describing a black hole.
Supermassive black holes are colossal gravitational entities that reside at the centers of most galaxies, including our own Milky Way, typically ranging from millions to billions of times the mass of the sun.
I told you that the darkness that was upon the face of the deep was the singularity of a black hole. And I also told you that the face of the waters were the black hole's accretion disk. Now, if you want more info or a more in-depth discussion about this, go to my last video. So the first 3 words that I tried to break down were the first 3 words in the Bible, in the beginning. The next word is God, and that's what this episode is about.
Across the world, pretty much, all religions are based on astrotheology because that's what man wanted to know about. Man wanted to know his place in the universe.
Okay, so that was and this is Ralph Ellis. He is an independent explorer, independent researcher. He's an author, and I think maybe he's an Egyptologist. Hard to say. Anybody can call themselves that nowadays, and many people do. Anyways, I disagree with Ralph Ellis about a great deal. In particular, his views and theories on who Moses was in history. All right, Ralph Ellis is obsessed with the notion that Moses was somehow related or involved in Pharaoh Akhenaten's dynasty. I could not disagree with Ralph Ellis more. I think he is completely wrong about everything when it comes to Moses. But he's not wrong about this. No, when it comes to ancient man, Ralph Ellis is spot on. Ralph Ellis says that the ancient man was just trying, if you didn't hear him, Ralph Ellis said that the ancient man was just trying to figure out his place in the world. And this is true. Since man's inception, since man began to be active upon the face of the earth, since they became aware enough or conscious enough to ask who they were, they've asked the same questions that we ask to this very day. Who are we? Where do we come from? And is there a God that governs it all? Okay, so at this point, I think it's very important to introduce a concept into this study or conversation about God. And that concept, and I know this is going to take people for a whirl. You're going to be like, where did that come from? This just came out of left field. But just follow me and you'll see where I'm going. The concept is that people are stupid. Now, I know that probably ruffled some feathers. Okay, people don't like rude behavior or insults. But look, grow up. The Bible talks about fools and foolish people. So we know there have always been stupid people. But what I'm telling you is that people are really stupid. They are big dummies.
You big dummy.
And the ancient man was exactly that, a big dummy. In ancient times, we were just a bunch of dummies trying to figure it all out. Now, that's not insulting ancient man to call him a big dummy. And I'm not trying to say that ancient man was talentless. Even today, a lot of dummies can fight. A lot of dummies are strong, but we weren't doing any long division. Ancient man being stupid, it was an acceptable stupidity because we were still in our infancy. Mankind was still a baby, so we were expected to be stupid. The only problem is not much has changed. When we think about the way ancient man viewed God, I think we need to understand that we are viewing God through the eyes of a dummy. So when man first started out, we worshiped everything we saw and everything that we could get our hands on. We worshiped the rocks. We worshiped the grass. We worshiped the landscape. We worshiped the food we ate. There was a lot of bull worship in ancient times, and that's why you see a lot of bull iconography or bull rock art. It's because the worship of the bull became a really big thing. You see kings displayed as having bull-like headgear or headgear with horns. You see a lot of bull representation in the artwork and in the religion. The bull was a big respected thing. It was, for a while, it was how people ate. It was how they survived. It was how they clothed themselves. The bull was a big deal. And so you see in early religion a lot of worship of the bull. Okay, so we didn't just stop at the bull or the food we ate or the rocks. We worshiped the sea. We worshiped all the creatures of the sea. We worshiped just about every imagination of our minds. Now, once we start playing in the mud, everything changed. If you research ancient history, you'll find what's called the Pottery Age. Now, we were making stone tools long before we start playing in the mud and forming impressions and making art, and we were drawing on the rocks. But once we start playing in the mud and making artwork, producing sculptures, molding clay, wood, and stone, it changed religion because now the gods that we worshiped were more tangible. They had form. You didn't have to imagine what the gods looked like. We could show you what they look like. We didn't have to worship the gods in abstract. Now the gods had a vessel in which to live, something that we could carry around. Now we could carry around not only the images of our gods, but the gods lived within those images. And today we call those images idols. So another humongous revolution in ancient worship was the worship of the sun. Now I want to just take a couple minutes and talk about this change from worshiping everything to the worship of the sun, because the worship of the sun, like the worship of the bull, took off like a rocket ship. It became very widespread and prevalent, and I want to tell you why. Because there came a time in ancient history where people started looking up to worship, and I'm going to explain to you why. Okay, so have you ever heard of the sons of God? Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 through 2 speaks about these individuals called the sons of God. Here, let me read it for you. Now it came about when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves whomever they chose. Now, who are these sons of God? Now, naturally, when you hear sons of God, people think angels, and that makes sense. Why wouldn't angels be the sons of God? On its surface, that seems to make perfect sense. But you know, people are stupid. So yeah, people are big dummies, like Fred said. So they didn't just stop at saying that the sons of God were angels. Some people even in modern times, people want to say that they were aliens. So I don't have time to go too deep off into the sons of God. If you want, check out my video called Giants, Men of Renown, where I go more in depth about who the sons of God were. But for right now, just to, not waste too much time going off on a tangent, I just want to tell you, it pleases me so. It makes my heart rejoice for joy to be the one to tell you that the sons of God were not angels. As I know that hurts your feelings. I know you so badly wanted them to be half-naked Calvin Klein models with wings, but that just isn't the case. And they weren't aliens either. I would say I'm sorry to tell you, but I'm not. So that's what I was talking about at the beginning of this episode. You get off into these echo chambers, you get fed this narrative, and like Malcolm X says, somebody told you something and you believed it. You didn't research anything. You didn't second guess them. I don't know. Maybe it was because it was somebody close to you. It was your pappy or your auntie or Graham. Maybe it was your pastor. No, the sons of God are the holy line of Seth. Do you remember who Seth was? Let me explain. Adam and Eve had two twin boys, Cain and Abel. Cain murdered Abel and was subsequently exiled out of the Garden of Eden for murdering his brother. Adam and Eve later went on to give birth to Seth. And the descendants of Seth are the sons of God. So these sons of God, they are the holy line of Seth, the descendants of Adam. And they are very important to why people started looking up to worship God. So what did the sons of God do that was so important and so impactful on the world? Well, the sons of God were called the Watchers. Why were they called the Watchers? Because they watched the stars. So the sons of God were the holy line of Seth. They were called the Watchers because they watched the stars. And what they learned from watching the stars changed the world. They were the world's first astronomers. They were the world's first astrologers. They were prophets, many of them, because they had an ancestry of prophecy. Adam was a prophet. Seth was a prophet. So that line, that bloodline of Adam through Seth was a bloodline of prophets. But by studying the stars, they learned math, they learned arithmetic, they learned science. By living in the Garden of Eden, they learned agriculture. These were the most powerful men on earth. These were the masters of the universe. They didn't have to be angels. They didn't have to be aliens. They were flesh and blood men, and the influence and the impact that they left on the world from what they did still reverberates to this very day. It will probably reverberate to the very ends of time. These sons of God held the secrets to the universe. They were the first mystics. They were the first magicians. They were the first sages. They were the first rulers. If you go back a couple episodes, I said that before there were kings and queens, old men were the rulers. The sons of God were the first rulers of the earth. They were the first people to have a major impact on the entire face of the earth. One last thing about the sons of God. They lived for an unnatural length of years. They lived for an abnormal length of time. Hundreds upon hundreds of years. And they spent the majority of their lifetime watching the stars. That's why they were called the Watchers. Now you may think to yourself, why is that a big deal? What could they have possibly learned from watching the stars, and why would that make a person so powerful? If you think back to the beginning, to the early days of mankind, no one knew anything. No one knew anything about the world. The reason you know what you know now is because of them. They were the first ones to figure out, hey, the earth is round. They were the first ones to figure out, hey, we're standing on a spinning rock and there are other planets and stars and other suns. These sons of God, the holy line of Seth, they were the first one to use the stars to waters. They were the first one. They introduced mathematics and arithmetic to the world. They introduced agriculture to the world. They introduced religion and worship, and the worship of the cosmos, of the stars, and of things off planet. They were the ones who introduced this to the world. And you say to yourself, well, how did this holy line of Seth, get off into worshiping the stars? Well, because the holy line didn't stay holy. They were holy until they weren't. And I'm not going to go off all into that, but I just want you to understand that this looking up to the sky, this looking to the sky and worshiping gods in the sky started with the sons of God. One more thing that the sons of God introduced to the world was writing. There's an old rabbinical tale about how the sons of God prophesied that the world would be destroyed by fire and water. And they said the order that it would happen. It would be destroyed first by water and second by fire. And according to the rabbinical tale, they wrote this prophecy on 2 pillars. Now, personally, I believe it. I believe this rabbinical tale. It's not in the Bible, but I believe it to be true. And the reason why is because they were right. They predicted that the world would be destroyed by water first and then fire. And guess what? The world was destroyed by water during Noah's flood. So I believe their prediction about the world being destroyed by fire will come to pass also. Now, just in case you're wondering, do people like the sons of God exist today in our lifetime? And my answer would be yes. Here's a fun fact for you. I think, in my humble opinion, a modern day son of God would have been Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein was an abject genius. People say that Elon Musk is a genius, but Elon Musk couldn't hold a candle to Albert Einstein. And a lot of you are probably saying to yourself, Albert Einstein, that feeble old man here. Let me put up a younger picture of him doing some justice. Albert Einstein changed the world. You want to look at Albert Einstein and call him a feeble old man, and I know he does not look like much, but the measure of a man is not calculated by strength of arm. It's calculated by what's between his ears. And Albert Einstein was the most brilliant man of many generations. I don't know anybody who was on his level. And let's be clear, during his lifetime, he was competing with a lot of brilliant minds, a lot of geniuses. But in my opinion, if you want to get an idea of what the sons of God were like, or what they would have been like, think Albert Einstein. Comment on this video if you want me to go more into depth on that, because I would love to. I know how easy it is for your imagination to paint a picture of these great armored warriors with swords and shields and wings and magical powers, but that's just not reality. Here's the thing I want you to see. We talked a few episodes ago about the land of Sumer and the Sumerians and how advanced they were. Why do you think they were so advanced? I'll tell you why I think they were so advanced. Because the land of Sumer was just north of where we believe the Garden of Eden was. Tell me if this doesn't make sense. Adam and Eve and their descendants are in the Garden of Eden. They get kicked out of the Garden of Eden. It's destroyed. Where do you think they went? Would it be far-fetched to think that they went north into the land of Sumer? And that would explain how the Sumerians came upon the scene? Super advanced, way more advanced than anyone else. They have a solid standard religion. I believe that when the Garden of Eden was destroyed, Adam's descendants, meaning the sons of God, settled in the place nearest to them, to the north, where there were people already living that they could rule over. They passed their knowledge to the Sumerians. So now when archaeologists of today's era dig in southern Mesopotamia, they find this super advanced race called the Sumerians. And it's perfectly explained why they are super advanced if you know scripture. It's because someone taught them. Someone gave them the knowledge. The book of Enoch talks about how these fallen angels taught men and women how to make makeup, how to go to war, how to make weapons of war, how to worship. They taught them all these evil things because by that time, the line of Seth had failed. They had fallen from grace. That line was holy until it wasn't. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is when the Sumerians emerge upon the scene, already way more advanced than their peers or competitors, I'm giving you a plausible reason as to why. So this changes worship. This changes the way men worship, the way they think of God. This change is due to the activities of the sons of God. Generations after the sons of God, people are still mimicking them. They are still trying to be like them. They're still trying to keep traditions that they learned from the sons of God's era. So now when men worship, they look to the stars. They're no longer worshiping rocks, but they're using rocks in their worship. But now they're using rocks to determine the position of the sun and its rays. They're also writing. The Sumerians were super advanced. They came upon the scene, they were writing. This is a cuneiform tablet, and the writing on it is called cuneiform, which is why it's called a cuneiform tablet. But the Sumerians were already writing. This is the Enuma Elish. It's a cuneiform stone found in ancient Babylon. This is where we get the creation story from. What I want you to understand is because of how the ancient Babylonians and Sumerians believed, it influences what we believe to this day. The creation story started with the Enuma Elish. It started in ancient Babylon. It started in ancient Sumer. Before Moses' creation story, you had the Babylonian Enuma Elish. You had the Sumerian creation story. Another thing that the Sumerians started doing was building houses for their gods. Now that they had idols and that they could write, They started building temples and houses to house their gods, places of worship that everyone could come to and gather to worship their gods. This is called a ziggurat. If you've ever read the story about the Tower of Babel, this is what it would have looked like. It wasn't a tower at all. These were the early step pyramids. These were the early step temples of ancient southern Mesopotamia. And everyone would come here and gather and bring their sacrifices and worship to the sky gods. And the Sumerians had a legitimate, standard, organized system of religion. And they had a pantheon of gods that they worshiped. And I want to take just a few minutes to talk about these gods that the Sumerians worshiped, because it's important to understand the influence of the Sumerian culture on us today. It's important to understand how what the Sumerians believed back then influences us to this day. Okay, so at the top of the Sumerians' pantheon of gods that they worshipped is the god Anu. Anu is the supreme deity of the sky. There is no debating that. If you can wrap your head around that, then we're in a good spot. Anu is the head honcho. He's at the top of the food chain. He is the daddy god. There's no one above him, and this is a consensus with the people of southern Mesopotamia. The Babylonians, they tend to follow what the Sumerians believed, and so did the Assyrians. They may have changed the name to fit their culture, but Anu is the god of the sky, is recognized as the supreme deity that the southern Mesopotamians and the people of that area, he is the supreme deity that they worship. Okay, got it? So Anu, the sky god, has two sons. Their names are Enlil and Enki. Anu and his two sons, Enlil and Enki, form the Trinity, or a Trinity. So let me talk about Anu's sons. And Anu's kids in general are referred to as the Anunnaki, but his sons Enlil and Enki are the top two major players out of all his kids. Now Enlil, he is the one who inherits the throne from his father. He is the supreme leader after his father Anu, because Anu passes leadership and rule down to his son Enlil. So Enlil is the god of the sky. He's the god of wind and air. Enki, on the other hand, is the god of wisdom, water, and magic. So Enlil and Enki fall out over human beings. Enki is partial to humankind. So when Enlil seeks to destroy mankind via a flood, Enki saves them by warning the king Ziusudra that there's an impending flood coming. And Ziusudra, who is really just Noah, he and his family are saved from the flood that Enlil sends to wipe out mankind. So Enlil and Enki are kind of at odds over human beings, over mankind. This is actual ancient art of the deity Enki. If you can see my arrow here, you see he's got water and fish associated with him. Look at his headgear, the horns coming out. Bull worship is still prevalent even at the time of the sky gods. Bull worship is still prevalent even at the time of the sky gods. Look at his headgear. They ain't forgetting the strength and the representation of those bull horns. So I just wanted to show you what Enki looked like in the eyes of the ancient Sumerians. Okay, so here's the thing. Modern day scholars and modern day people, they think that the ancient Sumerians were talking about aliens. They think that when the ancient Sumerians and Babylonians wrote down what they wrote down about the gods that they worshiped, modern day people think that they're talking about an alien visitation. Okay, so we need to talk about this alien obsession because it is so prevalent that there's no getting away from it. People love the idea of aliens. They want it to be true. Despite the evidence, they want it to be true. Well, I should say despite the lack of evidence. And here's the thing. I'm not against the notion of aliens. I don't think it's a stupid idea. I don't think it's stupid. I don't think that aliens visiting ancient man and teaching them advanced technology, I don't think that's stupid. I think that is plausible. It's only when you get to digging down and trying to find the truth and looking at evidence and the science, that's the problem I have with it, because there's no evidence of aliens. The Bible certainly does not speak about aliens. The Sumerians did not explicitly say they were being visited by aliens. That is our perception, but our perception is the perception of a dummy. The notion that the ancient Sumerians and Babylonians were visited by aliens was started by this man here, Zecharia Sitchin. Zecharia Sitchin was a Palestinian. He was a journalist, and he taught himself to read cuneiform. If you don't remember what cuneiform is, I'll go back. If you look on my slide, remember these cuneiform tablets, these ancient inscriptions, this ancient language that's archaeologists dug up in modern day Iraq. That's how we learned about the ancient Babylonians and Sumerians. And for a long time, no one could read this cuneiform script. Zecharia Sitchin taught himself to read it. Zecharia Sitchin taught himself to read cuneiform before anyone else could read it. And no one had any way to challenge what he said because supposedly no one but him could decipher the cuneiform tablets. So Zecharia Sitchin said that these tablets were talking about an alien visitation, that what the Sumerians and the Babylonians were writing about was an alien civilization. The Anunnaki were actually aliens from a planet called Nibiru, and they came here trying to mine gold. They created humans so that we could mine gold for them, and they kept human beings as slaves. Here's the problem. Later on, professionals, people with credentials, people who had an education, they did learn and educate themselves to correctly decipher and translate cuneiform. And Zecharia Sitchin has since been thoroughly debunked. Kudos to Zecharia Sitchin. He translated some of the cuneiform when no one else could. But his lack of education, his lack of professional education made him prone to errors. And he erred in a lot of his translations. He erred in a lot of ways he deciphered the cuneiform text. He made big errors. He was right about some stuff. He was wrong about most. But Zecharia Sitchin, rest in peace, he has been thoroughly debunked. Okay, so let me be clear so I know we're all on the same page moving forward. There is no such thing as aliens. Now, if that upset you, let me tell you something else. There's no Santa Claus either. Nobody's colonizing any other planets, you putz.
You big cold-blooded dummy.
You need to get your head out of your culo. It's because of these stupid notions and these stupid ideas that there is so much confusion and distrust and misinformation about religion today. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be. I can see why it is. I'm just here. I'm the Soapman. I'm here to clean it up for you. So why does this obsession with aliens persist? It's because that's what people want to believe. It's more appealing. It's more entertaining. For most people, the truth is not sufficient. But the problem when you go down this rabbit hole is it's like telling a lie. You have to come up with a bigger and bigger lie to make it make sense. So when you press these people talking about alien visitations, when you press them upon why is there no evidence, because a blurry photo or blurry camera footage is not evidence. Some crackpot or some hack who used to work for the government, his personal story is not evidence. You know what evidence is? An alien body, a fingernail. How about some alien excrement? How about some alien urine? What, are these aliens God? Do they not make mistakes? Do they not have to use the bathroom? Are they God? Does their spaceship never break down? Why don't we see any alien spaceships broken down on the side of the road or in the desert? Why don't we see all this hype about aliens in China? Or why don't we see all this alien hype in Russia? It's only in the Americas where this nonsense is most prevalent. Why, you may ask? Why are nonsensical and baseless notions put on such a high pedestal in this part of the world? Well, the answer is simple.
But the people are retarded.
Okay, so let me just set the record straight. The ancient peoples of Sumeria and Babylon were not talking about aliens. They never said that they were visited by aliens. That's what we think. It would be a thing if that's what they said. Then we could discuss whether we wanted to believe that or not. But the ancient Sumerians and ancient Babylonians never said that they were visited by aliens. Modern people are saying that because they're dummies. So what were the ancient Sumerians and Babylonians talking about when they were talking about the gods that they worshiped? And for that answer, we go back to Ralph Ellis.
You have to think of everything that's said in these religions, you have to think of it in terms of the cosmos.
Did you hear what Ralph Ellis said? He said, well, what he essentially said was, when the ancients speak about the gods that they worship, they are speaking about the cosmos. Let me say that again. Ralph Ellis says, and he's spot on, when the ancients speak about their gods, they are speaking about the cosmos. So back to the Sumerians and their pantheon of gods, Anu and the Anunnaki, his descendants. If Anu is the sky god, or the god of the sky, or the god of the universe, his children are the stars. So the ancient Sumerians were talking about constellations. That's who the Anunnaki are. All you idiots who want to believe that the Sumerians and the Babylonians were talking about aliens in spaceships when they were talking about the Anunnaki, does any of this make sense? That if the sky or the universe was God, that the children would be the stars? It's that simple. It's just that simple. But no. You'd rather believe in oval head, big head men with dark eyes and suction cups on their fingers with ray guns. And when you ask people, well, why the hell we don't never see them? They got all the excuses in the book. Oh, there is evidence. Oh, Bob Lazar. And no, dude. Who do you think you talking to? Some crackpot, some quack. It is such an insult to my intelligence. I asked one person, well, if you don't see them, if we never see the aliens, why do they matter? If we're never going to see them, because some people say, oh, well, the reason we don't see them is because they hide. They have advanced technology so they can hide from us. You know, they can phase in and out of dimensions. All kind of Star Trek sci-fi bull. So I said to an individual, well, if we never see them, why do they matter? I mean, really think about that for a minute. If we don't ever see the aliens, if they don't never make themselves known, present themselves, we never have physical, tangible evidence of aliens, they never do anything, they don't invade, then why do they matter? Oh, and people try to say, oh, well, oh yeah, they feed secrets to the government. Well, they're in touch with governments. It's childlike. And you never gonna understand who God is, thinking like an idiot, thinking like a dummy, or thinking like a child. But the fact is, throughout history, we have done exactly that. The ancient Sumerians and the ancient Babylonians and the people surrounding in and out between the Tigris and Euphrates River, the people of Mesopotamia, when they spoke about the gods that they worshiped, they were speaking, as Ralph Ellis stated, about the cosmos. Anu is the cosmos, and the Anunnaki, his children, are the constellations. Remember the worship of the bull? Well, the worship of the bull took a drastic and dramatic turn after the sons of God introduced worship of the stars. Now the worship of the bull was about the constellation Taurus. You see how this works? You see where this all came from? How it created a domino effect? We still have a zodiac that a lot of people observe even to this day. Remember the bull worship in the book of Exodus with Moses? You could see throughout history how prevalent and the impact of the worship of the stars became. When the people of Moses' time created a bull, it wasn't because man was still worshiping what they ate. By that time, men had long been worshiping the stars. So when you have modern day archaeologists digging up in the Middle East and they find all this bull iconography, we know why. It had to do with the worship and the observance of the cosmos. Ancient dummies trying to figure it out, and they're forever inching their way closer and closer and closer. Here's why none of what I just said in the past 10 minutes matters. Because an individual is going to come along And he's going to put all the confusion to rest. I don't need to say his name. You know him by this slide. You know him by his silhouette. An individual is going to come along and he is going to bring understanding. He is the equivalent of a son of God for his time period. Moses says there's only one God. There's no need to worry about Anu, Enlil, Enki, the Anunnaki, what the Sumerians is talking about, what the Babylonians is talking about. He's going to separate fact from fiction. He's the grown-up in the room, but the room is the planet Earth. We owe this man a great deal of gratitude, more than you may ever know or comprehend. He leveled the playing field. He made things easy for us. He said, there's only one God. I love talking about this great and admirable man. I could do it till I'm blue in the face, but I won't do it this episode. We'll pick up on what Moses did in the next episode. So folks, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Son of a Preacher Man. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you new or not. If you have any crass comments or compliments or insults, you're welcome to leave them in the comment section. You want to refute the Soapman, you want to duke it out, you want to argue, you want to debate, you want to just kill some time, hit me up in the comment section. You got something specific you want me to talk about or go more in depth in, let me know in the comment section. Until next time, same soap time, same soap channel. I'll see y'all then. Happy New Year.